In the second half of chapter 14, Perek Yudaled, Pasuk Yud Chet, Shlomo Melech tells us, Nachalu petayim ivelet, v'arumim yachtiru da'at. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. He's talking about the ultimate results. The ultimate results of one who pursues knowledge, that people will crown him. He will be admired, whereas those who are simple will inherit folly. For you to better understand what he's talking about, I'll give you an example. In the past, in the late 40s and early 50s, for those Jews who were living in South America, where there was no Torah, or not as much Torah, and there were no yeshivot, if somebody were to send away his child, his son or his daughter, to a yeshiva, to a Bet Yaakov far away in Israel and the United States, they would make fun of it. They would think it's crazy to spend so much money to send them away, to be away for so long. But when those children will come back, and they would be so learned, they would be a source of admiration. People at first do not see the benefits of investing perhaps in a child, investing in Torah. People actually mock or made fun. And this happened with my family too, in Brazil, where my grandparents sent away my mother to study in New York. It was unheard of. It was expensive back then to send from such a faraway place. But it was my grandparents' family that remained religious. They were the only ones who were observant because of this, because the children went away and studied in Israel, in New York. They're the ones that came back and taught the second generation and contributed to the community in a very significant way. And it's only later on when these people can look back at what the grandparents did and appreciate how important it was, that it paid off, that now their children and grandchildren are still Jewish and marrying Jews. So at first it appears like it's silly, it's a waste of money. So that's what he means, that in the end, those who are prudent will be crowned. People will admire them. The simple will inherit folly, means that the consequences of their actions will be folly. Rabbis tell us that there is a tremendous Kiddush Hashem when a Chacham, when a wise person behaves himself, does things properly. People will look at him and point to him and say, you see, look at this man who has learned Torah, Kama Na'im Ma'asav, how beautiful are his deeds. One has to be careful if one has learned, because he's an example, and others look at him, and Chas v'Shalom, if he does the opposite, if he does things not right, then it could be a source of Hilul Hashem, or the desecration of Hashem's name. So one who's learned could be a tremendous source of admiration to others, and for others to follow. The next pasuk, Shahur Ra'im Lifnei Tovim Ursha'im Al Sharet Tzadik. He translates it over here that the evil bow before the good and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. Shlomo Melech, according to most commentaries, is talking about the future, what will be in the end of days, or what is upstairs. In other words, we just said before that it should be obvious the results of one who pursues wisdom versus one who does not. But sometimes it's not so clear and not so obvious that this is the right way to go and this is the right thing to do. So Shlomo Melech says, you know what? Not everything is so crystal clear in this world. I'm letting you know what is better and what is more important. But in case it's not clear, it will be at some point, it will be clear at the end of days, or in Olam Haba, that Shahu Ra'im Lifnei Tovim, that the evil will bow before the good, that the Rasha will bow before the Tzaddik. In other words, at some point, if not now, then later, it will become obvious, it will become clear, and at that time when Mashiach comes, it's going to be too late for those to change their ways. So some say that this pasuk is talking about the future. Gam l're'eu yisaneh rash ve'ohavei ashir rabim. This is a very powerful pasuk where he says the poor is hated even by his own neighbor. I would disagree here. The re'eu doesn't mean neighbor. The translation of re'eu means his good friend. That even a good friend who used to be a good friend to this man who is now poor may no longer be his friend. And I'll explain that in a moment. But for some reason, the rich have many friends. This man was not rich yesterday, did not have too many friends, and all of a sudden he became rich, and everybody wants to be his friend. What is he letting us know here? It's not just a fact of life, that the poor don't have friends, that the rich have many friends. There's a lot of important mesarim here, important messages over here. First of all, he says that it just happens to be that somebody who had certain friends and all of a sudden lost his fortune, those who he thought were his friends will no longer be his friend. Remember that. And a person who has a lot of money, it may just be that he will have many friends. Are those friends true friends? No. Shlomo Melech is warning the Ashir, and he's letting the Ani, the poor man, know how friendship works in this world. There's different kinds of friendships. And the rich who think that they have many, many friends, they are misled, I guess. There's another word for it. They are living in an illusion that everybody's their friends. They don't really have true friends. People want their money. This poor man who used to have friends, what happened all of a sudden to his friends? Now that he doesn't have money, they don't want to be his friends. What does that tell you? That most friends, or most people who call themselves friends, are not friends. There must be some interest involved, and that's called in Hebrew ahava shetluya v'davar. It is a love or a friendship that's based on something specific: beauty, money, interest, politics, or some reliance or some need that this individual has of the other individual, and because of this there's a connection between them. But it's a very shallow connection that you should not depend on. Why? Because Shlomo Melech says, just look at this poor man who had re'ehu. Re'ehu is not just a haver, a yedid. Re'ehu is a very special friendship. Gam le're'ehu yisaneh rash. The poor man is no longer wanted even by the one who used to be his good friend, because this man is poor now. And all these rich people who think that they have friends, they're told, look at the poor man who did have once upon a time true friends, and they're no longer his friends. So you think they're going to be with you forever? They're only going to be with you for your money. As long as you have money, they'll be with you. All of this points to that concept of ahava shetluya b'davar, batel davar batela ahava. If a love or a friendship is based on something specific, but other than true friendship, then it will not last. It will only last as long as that davar is still around, that which is bringing about the connection between them. Now this point is such an important point that Shlomo Melech mentions it and emphasizes it 3 times in the book of Mishlei, using different words to describe different situations. Situation number 1, which is this one, he's letting us know that a friendship, a superficial friendship, is based on human beings going after each other for some to'elit, some benefit. Reuven will want to befriend Shimon only because he may have some benefit from him, a job, money, whatever it is. So that is the message in this pasuk, that a superficial friendship you can't count on. It's based on to'elet. Now, since the poor man has no to'elet, you can't benefit from him. Therefore, then even those who used to be his friends will drop him, because there's no to'elet. There's nothing to be gained from him anymore. The other concept that is mentioned later on in Mishlei is that a poor man, because he has to beg for money, who is he going to go get the money from? Those who are rich. So he's going to be separating himself from those who used to be close to him, who would like to be close to him, but he can't spend time with them because he's so after making money, and so much needs to knock on the doors of those who are wealthy, that he will therefore not want to have too much to do with those who can't help him. That is the second concept. Then you have the third idea that is expressed in Mishlei, and that is with the relatives of this poor man. The relatives should be the first to come to help the poor man. But those relatives who are stingy will find all sorts of excuses to explain why they don't want to help the poor man. So one's own relatives may be distant from one, even though that individual needs them so much. As we will see another pasuk, that sometimes there is a friend who is closer to one than one's own brother. And you may ask, how is that possible? And we're going to be learning about that later on. It's very possible that people who are friends can be closer than those who are from the same father and mother. Unfortunate or not unfortunate, I'm not sure. I mean, it should be that those who are from the same flesh should be very close, but obviously there are other factors that go into making a true friendship, other than being from the same blood. We'll eventually elaborate more about this concept. I only wanted to briefly discuss about the various types of situations where people are disappointed. You know, what happened? And they don't understand that many times the friendship was superficial, was shallow to begin with, and that you shouldn't have your hopes high. Because true and deep friendship is not too common. It's very rare. And just like a good marriage, a good relationship, it really depends how much the two invest in it, how much they really want to have something deep and strong. If one is not interested, then it won't help that the other one is devoted and wants it very much. The two have to want the same thing, and if they invest in the friendship, in the relationship, then they can make it very, very strong and very special. But in most cases this is not so. Most people have an interest, and that interest doesn't usually last long. People who've been very close when they were young, when they were single, they got married, they got busy with their own kids and families, they don't keep in touch anymore. And it could be understandable if they only kept in touch once or twice a year. Because then one can say, well, you know, I don't have the time I used to have when I was single. But to not be in touch at all, that shows that the friendship is not there, or at least the two are not serious enough to pursue it anymore. And it's sad. And it's very sad, because to have a true friend is one of the most important assets you can ever have in your life. Next pasuk. Baz lere'eu choteh u'mechonen anavim ashrav. The word anavim, which means humble, is written with two yuds, but you read it with a vav, meaning poor. Poor and humble are interchangeable here. So baz lere'eu choteh. Let me see how he translates it. He who despises another individual is choteh, is a sinner. But happy is he who is kind to the humble, or to those who are poor. We were just talking about a poor man. So it's very easy and very much seen and common that people would make a fool or make fun of those who are umlalim, those who are very weak and have no help. It's very easy to look down at them. So Salomon Melech says, just remember, just because you have more money than the other individual, don't make fun of him, don't look down at him, because you are a choteh, you are a sinner. U'mechonen anavim ashrav. And whoever looks after, who is kind to the humble, ashrav, he's fortunate. Commentaries explain that baz lere'eu choteh means that anybody who accuses others of some fault that they have, he himself may have that fault. He himself is a sinner if he accuses others of being sinners. And rabbis also tell us that whoever has many sins, it's part of his nature to look down at others and to accuse them of sinning. Others say that the meaning of this pasuk is, there are some individuals who, if they observe a certain good deed in another individual, they have to find something that's incomplete about it, something wrong about it. They have to criticize something about it. They can never say something good about it. They have to point out, but this is not right, or this should be done differently. And what that does is that it discourages them from continuing to do whatever it is, that good thing that they were doing. On the other hand, there are other individuals who will always elevate and praise any good act. Now this is an important lesson in relating to children. You see a child that comes home with a B plus or an A minus. You can have the parent who says, you could have done better than that. Why didn't you get an A? And by saying it in that way, one can be pouring cold water on the child and discouraging him from trying to do better next time, or from continuing to be serious about his studies. You have that other parent who doesn't look for flaws, for mistakes, for anything that's negative, who just emphasizes the positive. That's great. You make me so happy. I always knew that you were smart and you were serious. See, you didn't have to point out. Now let's say it was not so great. You can also find the right words. This is good, but I know you could do better. One has to be careful with how he or she expresses themselves with a child, and even with an adult. You can either encourage the man or the woman to continue to do whatever good thing they were doing, or you can completely discourage them by pointing out what is not right or what is lacking. So mechonen anavim, mechonen is the individual who actually praises and brings out the good and doesn't point out the faults or the weaknesses. All right, there's actually a Gemara, you may have heard of it, that says that anoten pruta le'ani, whoever gives money to a poor man gets six blessings. The hamefaiso, whoever makes him feel good, encourages him, gets 11. In other words, it's more important to say a kind word to the poor man than to give him the few dollars. He's heartbroken, and he needs the money too, but he's heartbroken. People forget about that part. They think, okay, he needs the money, here's some money. And some people make it even worse. They yell at him, and next time get yourself a job and don't knock on the door. It would be better not to say those words and not to give him any money. All the entire tzedakah, the entire mitzvah is lost. There's an avon, there's a sin for doing that. But the rabbis point out that it's the words that give encouragement to this poor man who may be embarrassed, who is going through a hard time, who may have left a wife and 8 kids back home. So he's really down. So giving him words of encouragement. What I do sometimes, what I like to do is, first of all, the fact that you take the time and you sit down and you're patient with them is very important. Number 2, you offer them a drink, because maybe they hadn't had anything to drink or eat a whole day. Number 3, you tell them, listen, B'ezrat Hashem, one of these days, you'll be helping others instead of asking for help from others. Those words that are very easy to say, and these words can make a big difference. A lot of poor people, I felt that I was able to help them much more with the words than with a little bit of money. That's the idea behind the word mechonen. Mechonen means not only to look after, but to empathize with the poor man in helping him in any way possible, not only with money but with words. Next pasuk, halo yit'u chorshe ra v'chesed ve'emet chorshe tov. So he puts it here as a question. Do not those who plan evil go astray, but those who plan good shall enjoy loyalty and truth. Who goes astray? Those who are chorshe ra. Chorshe ra really means those who think or plot to do bad or evil. V'chesed ve'emet chorshe tov. But those who plan good should enjoy loyalty and truth. The commentaries explain, what does it mean, chorshe ra? Those who think bad. There are those people who think bad about a poor man because of the situation, and they blame him that he must have done something wrong to deserve this punishment from Hashem. Anybody who thinks that way, he's being misled, because he's basically saying he understands what Hashem did, what Hashem's cheshbonot is with this individual. This man is suffering, this man is ill, this man has lost his money because he did some terrible avon. One should not think that way. We don't understand the ways of Hashem, and we should definitely not think bad of the poor man just because of his situation. We don't know why he is poor, or why he has come to that situation. On the contrary, v'chesed ve'emet chorshe tov, those who look after the poor man, who think of helping him out, Horshei Tov, they think of good things, what to do with him, they are the ones that will receive Chesed ve'emet. What's the difference between Chesed and Emet? Chesed means kindness, Emet means truth. Chesed is more powerful than Emet, because truth means that you do what is right and what is necessary, that is to help the man. Chesed means you do that which is you're not obligated to do, but you do it anyway. So the commentators explain, Midah keneged midah. If one is kind, if one does what he needs to do with those who need the help, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be kind with him as well. So instead of thinking negatively about a person, you have the opportunity to do the opposite. Perhaps there's something that I can do for you, that I can help you. Sometimes we can't help someone that much because we may not have money ourselves. It happens. But if we are Horshei Tov, if we have good thoughts and good intentions, you know what may come to your mind? Okay, I can't help you with money, but here is an address of a man who may help you. Horshei Tov. If you are looking out for the good, for the benefit of this poor man, then some idea may come to your mind. Chesed ve'emet, to be kind, to be truthful, and in return Hashem will be kind with you. B'chol etzev yiyeh motar udvar sefatayim ach lemachzor. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tends only to penury, whatever that means. In simple English, b'chol etzev, in any work, any labor, any toil, there's some gain. Regardless of what one does for a living, the fact that he's working, applying himself, he will have some satisfaction, he will have some gain, other than money. Udvar sefatayim achre machzor, those who only offer lip service, they don't work, they just talk, that will be lemachzor. Lemachzor means, he calls it penury. I have to look it up. But machzor means lacking. In other words, it will be a waste of time. As the commentaries tell us, there's a saying, Tiyeh chacham b'ma'asecha velo b'diburecha. Be a wise man with your acts, not with your words. Or as they say in English, actions speak louder than words, something like that. That's what he says over here. In other words, regardless of what you do, but you're doing something, dvar sefatayim, but just talking about it doesn't get you anywhere. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that we're talking about learning. Those who make an effort to study Torah, they work hard, they review their learning, there will be a motar, there will be a gain. They will remember what they learned. Those that just review it with the lips, they don't really work hard on it, then lemachzor, they will eventually forget it. And the rabbis tell this to us in many ways, that it's important to work hard to learn, even if it means staying up many hours, even if it means asking those who know better any questions that we may have, any doubts, because in this way one acquires the Torah. If one, imagine, comes home, let me give you an example of one who does it with his lips. He takes it easy. He comes home, he has what is it called? Those chairs that rock. Rocking chair? There's another word for it. I know, lazy something. I knew it had to do with lazy. Lazy board, yeah. It's for the lazy people. Exactly. Imagine somebody coming home and sitting down on one of those lazy chairs with a Cuban cigar, or with some chewing gum, whatever you like, or with some Persian tea, whatever you like. And with a Gemara on the other hand, with your feet crossed. What's the first thing that's going to happen? Moshe, what happens at 9 o'clock in the evening after a hard, long day? You fall asleep. You fall asleep. You won't be able to learn anything like that. It's impossible. To learn Torah requires yegi'ah. It requires hard work. It requires getting up, coming to a shiur, and even those that come, they fall asleep too. It's very hard. My uncle, Alav Shalom, my father's father, I was told that he would, in his earlier years, he would be always standing on a stender to learn, not sitting down, so you should not fall asleep. This is at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, And when he felt he was going to fall asleep, he had a bucket of cold water where he would put his feet inside of it. That's called yegi'ah. That is why he became a tremendous big Talmid Chacham. He knew many Gemarot by heart. And he barely ate. And whatever he ate, it was very little. He obviously emphasized Torah. He toiled. That's called yegi'ah. Whereas dvar sefatayim achre machzor, just lips, just repeating the words, just saying it with, not working hard, nothing really is gained so much. On the contrary, whatever we did learn once upon a time is lost or forgotten. All right, next pasuk. Ateret chachamim oshram ivelet kesilim ivelet. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. All right, this doesn't tell us too much. The commentators explain that the crown of chachamim is their wealth. Give wealth to the chachamim, they'll know what to do with the money. That's one pirush. Because ivelet kesilim ivelet, the fools, all they know is foolishness. In other words, you give them the money, it will not make them any smarter. A fool remains a fool even if you give him money. So who should get the money? The chachamim. It doesn't always work like that. For some reason, there are a lot of fools who have good mazal. But aside from the mazal, Shlomo Melech is telling us that it would obviously be a good thing if the chachamim could get their hands on money, or at least they should be consulted what to do with the money, because they know what to do with the money. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that the chachamim, if they are wealthy, they have more influence. People would listen to them more. And a third interpretation is that it would be good for a chacham to have money, because in this way he doesn't have to flatter the rich. He doesn't have to look up to those who have the money. He can do things on his own. He's independent of them, and therefore he can accomplish a lot more. And that is why the chachamim encouraged one to have some sort of profession and to be as much as possible self-sufficient and independent and not have to rely on others. And they even tell us, do anything, even sell hides in the street, for little money, but don't come onto people. Don't come onto people for favors. Don't come onto people to ask them for money. Be as much as possible independent and don't rely on others, if possible. Because in that way, if we're talking about a chacham, the chacham would have more influence. He would exert a lot more influence if he does not depend on somebody who has to pay his salary. He doesn't have to be afraid what to say. A lot of rabbis in various communities in Eastern Europe and elsewhere lost their job because of something they said that the president didn't like, or that the board didn't like, they didn't agree with. Even though he was right according to the halakha, according to the Torah, that didn't matter to them. To those who are arrogant, to those who are not respectful of Torah, to those who are not concerned about the halakha. So Shlomo Melech is telling us, yes, if you can do without their help, if you can have your own money, that would be a crown for the chokhmah too, in a sense. Alright, the next pasuk, Matzil nefashot ed emet ve'yafiach kezavim mirma. A true witness saves lives, but a deceitful witness speaks lies. What does it mean to save lives? Your testimony. Because you can be saving lives. Which lives? Not necessarily the life of the one who has been robbed, the one who has suffered, but even the life of the one who stole the money. Even the life of the thief. How is that? So the Gemara says, any thief that came to court and the court took away his jacket to pay for the money that he took, he should sing and be happy. Why? They took away his coat. Because at least he received this kapara. In other words, the debt was paid up. It was taken care of in this world and not in the upper world. So one should be happy if he lost something that was not really his to begin with. In other words, if he paid for his crime, in other words, he should be happy because his life is saved. In a sense, he received this kapara. So a true witness is able to bring about the situation where lives are saved, or some resolution is introduced to resolve some problem, some outstanding problem. And he also is able to avoid mirma. Mirma means lies or deceit. From who? From the judges. In other words, if one is a true witness, he may help the judges in correctly determining who is right and who's wrong, who's guilty and who's innocent. So he's sparing them the deceit that could otherwise have arisen from a case where one has no proof, no evidence. But one who spreads lies is causing the mirma to prevail, that which is deceitful. So obviously there's a lot of weight in the testimony. In the fear of Hashem there is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. One who is Yirei Hashem, who's God-fearing, he has something to rely on. What that means is that he can have true bitachon in Hashem. Yirat Hashem goes hand in hand with one who confides in Hashem. That is his miftach oz. That is his confidence. Because he's God-fearing, he does not fear human beings. As the rabbis tell us in the Midrash, there was once a man, a Jew, who was found sleeping in the desert. So somebody approached him, "Aren't you afraid of the wild animals?" He says, "No, I'm embarrassed to be afraid of other creatures other than Hashem." In other words, one who's truly God-fearing person is not afraid of anybody else. So that is why it's a miftach oz for him. It's a source of confidence. He can completely rely on Hashem. And because of his God-fearingness, lebanav yemachseh, that zechut of his yirat shamayim goes over to his children as a machseh. Machseh means as a protection. If they are ever in trouble, they will remember the father's zechut of being a God-fearing person. So the yirat Hashem of an individual will help his kids too. This pasuk brings out the importance of trying to figure out if a particular individual is Yirei Hashem or not. In other words, let's say you go to a Kabbalist. You hear that there is a Kabbalist in town who can read your forehead and tell you everything about you. Should you go? What would you say? Why not? No, let's say you have some problems, let's say you have some questions. Should you go consult with him? Yes? Why?
Because he has that gift and knowledge to know.
Do you know how many places on Highland and Santa Monica Boulevard and probably on Pico Boulevard too, it says psychic, tarot cards, crystal ball reader? Why don't you go to them?
No, because he goes
For $5 only. What? For $5 only, they will do a reading for you. Why not? How about all the gypsies who read the hands, who read your horoscope? Huh? But let's say it's not idol worshipping. Would you go in or not?
They're phony.
Oh, they're phony. Who told you?
But if they knew what to do, they would have done it for themselves first. Take $5 from you.
No, not exactly. You know, we have a saying that "En asir matir et atzmo mibet hasurim." A prisoner cannot release himself from prison, right? So they can help others; they cannot help themselves. Yeah. No. Anyway, there are several reasons why we don't go to see these people. Reason number one: the Torah tells us, "Tamim tiyem Hashem Elokecha." You have to be sincere with Hashem and not consult and figure out the future by asking these individuals. Number one. Number two, some of them may lead you astray because they do things that involve tum'ah, impure forces, witchcraft, idolatry, like you mentioned. Number three, which concerns us right now, is like what you said. They may be phonies. They may just be after your money. How do you know that what they're saying is true? A lot of mekubalim are mekablim. All they want is not
horoscope.
What?
Horoscope.
Yeah. What about a horoscope? A lot of things are true with the horoscope.
president, the wife of the president, she was
Well, of course, a lot of it is true.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it is true. It all depends what we're talking about. There's a lot of things that are true. I didn't say it's all phony. I said some could be phony, some could be true. The Torah would not forbid certain things unless it was true. The Torah would tell you it's all silly. A lot of things are true. There's a lot of psychics who can tell a lot of things about you. But should you consult with them? That's a whole different question. See what I mean? But I don't want to talk right now about those who are real. I want to talk about those who are phony. Because that's what this pasuk is about. Yirat Hashem. There's a lot of people out there who are not mekubalim, they're mekabelim. They want to take your money. So they write the card. They have a business card where they say everything about themselves. Perhaps they read the mezuzot, they write kemiot, they take care of ain hara, they remove witchcraft, and they give blessings too. Anytime somebody publicizes himself with a business card and charges money, it's suspicious. He probably doesn't know what he's talking about. Maybe he picked up a book somewhere and read a little bit about these subjects. How do you know who to go to? How do you know who to rely on? Who to ask? It has to be somebody who is Yirat Hashem, who has the fear of heaven. How do you know if somebody has the fear of heaven if you don't know him for several years? You have to ask others who know him. In other words, if an individual has a good reputation, Baduku menuseh, that Baduku menuseh means that he has been tested by others to be accurate in his diagnosis. And number 3, he doesn't charge an exaggerated amount of money. Then it could be that he knows what he's talking about. But money, anytime a person puts an emphasis on, I'm going to charge for this $250 for this blessed water. Then you give him back the water. Bring him another bottle of water from your faucet and tell him you'll give this for free. You know, don't fall for that. Don't fall for that. So Biyirat Hashem Yiftach Oz, who can we rely on? Who can we have confidence on? Only one that has Yirat Shamayim, who has a good reputation, who is Baduku Menuseh, that he's been tested by others, and we see that he's reliable, and there's no money involved. Once money is involved, like in some places where they're teaching Kabbalah, a lot of money is involved. It's a business. Well, then it becomes suspicious. I'm not saying it's bad. Maybe there's some good there, but it becomes suspicious that maybe it's not real. Maybe it's not perfect. Maybe it's not as good because there's so much business involved. Yes?
I'm confused. Go to these people for what? To tell, so they can tell you your destiny? Isn't that kind of interesting?
No. In our circles, we don't go to crystal ball readers, but we go to tzaddikim, mekubalim, kabbalists, or rabbis, great rabbis, who will advise us in different ways. Now, there are rabbis who, of course, don't do anything except for advising you based on their knowledge and their experience. There are others who seem to have some koach, some gift from Hashem, who by looking at certain things, they can tell. That's a possibility. As long as they are reputable, they have Yirat Shamayim, and they're not suspicious. But a lot of people fall for it. Because, they see a guy who has a long beard with a glima, with a long coat, with a turban over his head. They think, he must know something that I don't know. So you have to be careful with these. There's a lot of phony people, like you said. A lot of phony people. Liars, cheaters. All they want is your money. So Yirat Hashem is the foundation of everything. That leads to the next pasuk. Yirat Adonai mikor chaim, lasur mimokshe mavet. That the Yirat Hashem is a fountain of life to depart from the traps of death. What that means is that only once an individual has reached the level of being a true God-fearing person can he be spared from any of the traps. Who lays the traps? The Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara does constant battle with us, and we always have to defeat him. And we all have our ups and downs in this battle because we're not always strong. So we have our ups and downs, our aliyot v'yiridot. Once a person has reached the level of true Yirat Hashem, the rabbis tell us, Shegam Yetzer Hara oseh shalom ito. Even the Yetzer Hara makes peace with him. He leaves him alone. He doesn't go after him anymore. The Kabbalah says that any time an individual who has let go of a particular sin, but he still has the thoughts in his mind. Let me give you an example so you can understand. It's not a real sin, but it's similar. Somebody who used to be a heavy smoker. What's a heavy smoker? 3 packs a day. Right? And he stopped completely. But whenever he smells a good cigarette, he just has this tava, this heshek, he would like to have one too. What does that tell us? That it's not completely out of his system. It's still in the mind, or somehow in his body, he would still love to do it. But that's with cigarettes. Imagine if somebody still has the desire for certain things, but he holds himself back because he did teshuvah. So the Kabbalah says that his teshuvah is not yet 100%. Because if he still has the thoughts that invade his mind regularly, if it's regularly, that means that it's still bothering him. Which means that the Yetzer is still after him. Which means that he still has to do battle with the Yetzer. Once an individual reaches the level of Yirat Hashem, Lasur mi mokshe mavet, that will help him stay away from the traps of death. So long as he has not reached the level of Yirat Hashem, he has to do battle, continuously battle, and look out for all these traps that are laying out there. And there are many, many traps, and people fall into these traps innocently, and they don't realize that it's the Yetzer Hara laying the trap. So that's the main mechanism holding us back from falling in the trap, is something called Yirat Shamayim. Next pasuk, Berov Am Hadrat Melech. It's a famous pasuk. Uve'efes le'om yachitat razon. In the multitude of people is the king's glory, but in the lack of people is the downfall of the prince. The simple explanation here is that a king is king when he has many people. That is when he has glory. But in the lack of it, when there are no people, it's his downfall. That means he has no kingdom. That's a simple interpretation of this pasuk. But what is he talking about? One idea that is mentioned in this pasuk is the idea of tefillah b'tzibur, with a minyan. The more people we have in a Bet HaKnesset or in a mitzvah, is more glory for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Berov Am Hadrat Melech. The more people, the more glory and kavod for Hashem. If you have a minyan for zimun, it's much better than 3. And that is why we add the word Elokeinu. The more people involved in the mitzvah, the greater kavod for Hashem. And the opposite is also true, Chaz v'Shalom. There used to be a minyan, and all of a sudden one day, as the Zohar says, Hashem visits the Bet HaKnesset, and he sees there's no minyan, he's very upset. So that's one interpretation. The commentaries also explain that in reality, what do we see from this pasuk? We see people's dependency on wanting to have a king, and the king's dependency on having to have people. Otherwise he has no kingdom. There's a certain dependency that people have with a king, and the king has a certain dependency in having people. So therefore, the rabbis tell us that is the reason why HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not want the Jewish people to have a king who is basar v'dam, a human king, flesh and blood, because Hashem did not want that they should depend on a human being. Because there is this certain dependency that exists between the two, Hashem did not want the Jewish people.
There's a mitzvah to have a king.
Right, I'm going to get to that. So Hashem knew that because of this dependency, right, they will Chaz v'Shalom not be as dependent in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They will depend on the king. So Hashem would have preferred that the Jewish nation not have a king. But since they asked for a king, or since he knew that they will ask for a king, which they did, that is why he gave us the mitzvah on how to have a king, and how to go about choosing the king, and what the king should do and not do. So all the mitzvot in the Torah of having a king and what the king needs to do is only because Hashem knew that in the future they will want to have a king just like everybody else. And Hashem was not happy with that. He says, fine, you can have one. Just make sure that the king does this and does not do that. Another midrash on this pasuk is that Hashem has thousands upon thousands of meshartim, of servants. But Berov Am Hadrat Melech, Hashem says, I want the Jewish nation to be my servants. I want them to praise me. That is more important to me than all my millions of angels who serve me. Next pasuk, Erech Apayim Rab Tebuna Uktsar Ruach Merim Ivelet. He who is slow to anger has great understanding, but he who is hasty of spirit, who exalts folly. Basically what he's trying to say is one who is patient, one who does not get angry quickly, that shows that he has understanding. That's a very important quality. Whereas one who's ktsar ruach merimi velet, one who is impulsive, who does not control himself, when we're talking about anger over here, merimi velet, he demonstrates or exalts folly. That is what he's showing about himself. It's always correct, and the smart thing to do is to absorb what you're hearing or what you're seeing before reacting to it. And even if one is upset and he could easily show that anger, it's best to hold it back. One who does hold back his anger, therefore, is an indication of his understanding, of his wisdom. One who always loses control of himself, it's the opposite. It's an indication of his folly. A very important way to recognize people. We're not talking about those individuals who just get upset very quickly. We're talking just in general terms that in certain situations you can tell how smart a person is if he holds himself back and controls his anger or not. Next pasuk, Chaye besarim lev marpe urkav atzamot kin'ah. Here he translates it, a sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy is the rottenness of the bones. Chaye besarim lev marpe, the commentaries explain, means that those who have a soft heart, those who are patient, they will have Haye Besarim. Their life is an easy life, a good life. They are able through their soft and gentle heart to quiet or to calm those who are angry, and they are able to quiet and calm themselves. So a lev marpe, a soft heart, a patient heart, not only does good to himself, but does good to others. There are certain personalities, and when I talk about astrology, I mention this, that there are certain personalities who somehow, in their words and in their attitude and approach, are excellent in dealing with those who are mentally, what's the word for it, mentally disturbed. You know, there are individuals who are mentally disturbed or very, very nervous, extremely nervous people. There are certain personalities that as soon as they talk and begin to deal with them, they quiet down. Whereas others, they get even more anxious and more nervous. There's something in certain personalities that quiets down others. You know, anybody who has that personality should be a nurse or perhaps should work with these people. Not everybody can be a social worker. It takes a lev marpe, a soft heart, a patient heart, one who does not take things to heart, one who's not overly sensitive. That's what a lev marpe means. A lev, it's interesting, marpe also means to heal. It's a soft, easygoing heart that is able to be calm themselves. It has a Haye Besarim. It has an easy life. It is not jealous. It is not upset. It has no worries. Whereas the opposite, Urkav Atzamot Kin'ah, one who is not at peace with themselves, one who is jealous of others, he has continuous worries, continuous problems, never has peace of mind. Look at the difference between one who is a Lev Marpeh, gentle and patient. Not only is he helpful to others who are upset, anxious, nervous, he has Haye Besarim, which according to one interpretation means an easier life, a life free of worries. And definitely he's not jealous, definitely he's not thinking of how to take revenge, how to get back at someone. He has no worries. Something that obviously some people have and some people need to develop. Yes?
You see sometimes the character is very bad.
Right.
This this attraction in voice, in his voice.
Well, the voice,
Yeah,
the voice helps too, but it has to be a combination of personality, because words that come out of the heart penetrate the heart, if it's really sincere. Okay, let's finish up here a few more pesukim. Oshek dal heref oseu mechabedo chonen evyon. He who oppresses the poor blasphemes his makers, but he who has mercy on the poor honors him. It's bad enough to steal. Bad enough to steal, but those who steal from the poor, they're basically heref oseu. Heref oseu means that they are blaspheming his maker. They're basically going against Hashem. They are believing that Hashem does not see. In other words, they're taking from a poor man. That means they think that the poor man has no protector. But the one who truly gives kavod to Hashem is the one who takes care of his poor. Because why did Hashem make poor people to begin with? Because He wants to be mezakeh us. He wants us to give us the opportunity to help out the poor. So one who helps out the poor, therefore gives kavod to Hashem. That is what Hashem expects of us to do. The wicked is overthrown through his evil doing, but the righteous has hope in his death. At times of hardship, one can tell a tzaddik from a rasha. A rasha, a true rasha, even when things are tough for him, and he sees all the terrible things happening to him, he's still a rasha. He doesn't change his mind. Afilu al pitchei shel Gehinnom, the Rabbi tells, even on the entrance of Gehinnom, they don't regret it. He's a true rasha. He doesn't see his mistakes. The choseh b'motot tzaddik. But then you have the righteous who has hope even in his death. At the last moment, he doesn't give up hope on Hashem that he can perform a miracle even at the point of death. You can tell during hard times who is a tzaddik, who is a rasha. Righteousness and the wisdom rests in the heart of him who has understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. In other words, you have to be a vessel to receive understanding. For chokhmah to settle in an individual, he has to have made himself a vessel, he has to prepare himself. Bekerev kesilim tivadeh means that amongst those who are fools, it could easily be detected. Just like one coin in an empty jar, you can hear the coin, as the rabbis tell us, but if the jar is full of chokhmah, of coins, then you won't hear it anymore. The fool, when he says something, everybody recognizes it. And another interpretation, Bekerev Kisilim Tivadeh, is that chokhmah, that wisdom in the heart of one who's a fool, it confuses him, because he's not settled. For a person to acquire chokhmah, for it to make a difference in his life, he has had to make of himself a vessel. Tzedakah teromem goy v'chesed leomim chatat. Very important pasuk. Righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. If a nation does tzedakah, it elevates them. It's a tremendous merit for that nation, and because it's a merit to those who do this mitzvah, it's a chesed leomim chatat. It is, unfortunately, it doesn't look good on the Jewish people if we're not doing it, if they are. That's one interpretation. Another interpretation is that tzedakah is a tremendous mitzvah for Am Yisrael. Teromem goy means it elevates the Jewish nation. The chesed leomim chatat, when the nations of the world do tzedakah or chesed, they do it for some interest, not l'shem shamayim. They take from one, they steal from one to give to another, like Robin Hood. Chesed leomim chatat, the commentaries explain that their entire interest that nations have in doing charity is because of not l'shem shamayim. It is in order for them to have more influence over those people. It is not l'shem shamayim like Am Yisrael does. Ratzon melech le'evet maskil be'evratot yeh mevish. The king's favor is turned towards the wise servant, but his wrath is against him who causes shame. That's the last pasuk of the perek, meaning that a king approves of a servant who is intelligent. He likes him, even if he sinned against him. Because he's intelligent, he knows that this man will correct his wrongs, will do teshuvah. And therefore, king's favor is turned towards a wise servant. Whereas the other individual, the one who is a mevish, who brings embarrassment, evratot yeh mevish, his wrath is always against him who causes shame. Melech over here is a melech basar v'dam, a mortal king, but this can also be applied to a kadosh baruch hu. that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves those who have some intelligence, that they realize on their own that they have done something against Him, and the first opportunity they have to do teshuvah, they grab on it, because they want to be on Hashem's good term. And since we're before Rosh Hashanah, I think this is a very proper thing to contemplate on, that Baruch Hashem, those of us who have a little bit of understanding and intelligence realize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has been so good and so kind to us, and that we owe Him so much. These kind of sentiments and thoughts is what triggers thoughts of teshuvah as well. If a person doesn't think about it, if he doesn't use his intelligence, doesn't observe what Hashem has done for him, then he will never come to that conclusion. He will never do teshuvah. He will always think he's right, that he never did anything wrong. That is why the melech is much more happier with one who has a little bit of intelligence. So Yehi Ratzon may be the will of Hashem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should accept our teshuvah, and that He should inscribe us b'sifran shel tzadikim gemurim. May we all have a Shana Tova. Katevu v'tichatemu. You should have a Ketiva v'chatima tova, and B'ezrat Hashem will be coming back November 2nd. Because of the holidays, we'll be away for 4 weeks. So I want to wish all of you a Shana Tova Umtuka.